welcome to the How to Learn Anything course from Plato University, where you're going to learn the science-based tools of pro learners to accelerate your learning, remember more, and master any hard skills. These are the secret techniques they didn't tell you in school. If you're passionate about changing your life with learning, join us at plato.university to get exclusive content with every lesson. I'm your learning guide, Brandon Stover, and let's get started. Okay, up until this point, we've learned how to create a learning plan for ourselves to engage in a learning process that can allow us to pick up any new concept or skill. I then went through 18 techniques that you can use to execute that learning plan and go through the various stages of our learning cycle of exploring, engaging, and executing. But we have two more steps in our learning process to really get the most out of our learning. And those two steps are 1, monitor and adjusting our learning, and 2, reviewing the results of our learning plan. And today we're going to cover monitoring and adjusting our learning plan as we go through this learning process. As you're learning, you need to make sure that you take a step back regularly to assess how your learning is going. Assess whether you're actually progressing in your learning and whether you're using the best learning strategies. You might find that you need to adjust the way you're learning. And that's perfectly okay. In fact, changing the practices when progress is slow or non-existent is an important part of being a self-directed learner. For example, if you realize that you're struggling to understand a difficult text, you might want to try studying another source, such as an explainer video on YouTube or an online course. Now, although we're covering this as the third step of our learning process, it's something that you'll actually engage with during the entire learning process. You'll most likely go through this several times on your way to mastering a difficult subject. Because as you start engaging with the learning process, you often have a better understanding of the task, and you may have learned some things that make you want to update your goals and plan that you originally created. Based on that, you change the way you study, you may improve your understanding of the learning task, and make further changes to your goals and plans. And this practice is critically important. Becoming a more self-directed learner can really pay off in the long run. One study found that training students to become self-directed learners could move them from the 50th to the 75th percentile. During your learning, you may notice that your plan relies too much on passive reading rather than retrieval practice. You may see that the way you're practicing is a winding detour away from where you will actually want to use it. You may feel as though you're forgetting things or memorizing them without really understanding them. And of course, all of this is okay. In some cases, you won't be able to have the perfect learning approach because the resources that you need just don't exist. However, becoming sensitive to how the way you're learning isn't aligned with the principles that we've learned throughout this course is a good way to feel out changes you can make to improve it. So now let's discuss exactly how you can monitor and adjust your learning plan as you go through the learning process. You can approach monitoring your learning plan both qualitatively and quantitatively. So let's discuss both. To assess your learning plan in a qualitative perspective, here are some questions to ask yourself to determine whether you're slipping from the ideal. Ask yourself, have I done the research into what are the typical ways of learning this subject or skill? Have I interviewed successful learners to see what resources and advice they can recommend? This is going to help assess if your learning plan is even within the ballpark of where it needs to be to actually learn this skill or concept. Next, you can start assessing how well you're focused during your learning sessions. Ask yourself if you're multitasking or distracted while you're learning. Or maybe you're skipping out on learning sessions that you scheduled for yourself. Start to assess your motivation and how long it takes you to get focused and in a good flow when you're learning. Next, start assessing how the way you're learning will be applied later. Are you learning a skill in the way that it'll eventually be used for later? How are you currently practicing the way that you're transferring the knowledge that you learned from a book or a video to real-life situations? Here, we can also assess some of the ways that we're practicing the skill. Are you spending your time focusing on the weakest points of your performance? Which rate-limiting steps are the ones that are holding you back from learning more or mastering this skill? Does it feel like the skill that you're mastering seems too complex? And if so, can you break it down into smaller skills and start practicing each one of those? Now remember, with learning, the biggest thing we want to be doing is actively recalling this information from our mind. So start to assess that. Are you spending most of your time reading and reviewing? Or are you solving problems and recalling things from your memory without looking at your notes? Do you have ways of actively testing yourself? And are you using things like spaced repetition to see if you can explain what you learned yesterday, last week, or maybe even a year ago? Now, as you engage in practice, are you getting the type of honest feedback about your performance early on? Or are you trying to avoid criticism about your practice? Do you understand what you're learning well and what you're not? You can also look at how sticky this information is becoming. Are you exposing yourself to information in spaced repetition so that it'll stick longer? And are you focused on turning declarative or factual knowledge into procedures that'll help you retain the skills or knowledge that you're learning? Also look at the resources and ways and techniques that you're learning. Are you getting stuck with your current resources and techniques? Do you need to branch out and try new approaches to reach your learning goal? How can you go beyond mastering just the basics and create a unique style to solve problems creatively and do things others haven't explored before? And finally, to really assess whether you're mastering the skills that you're learning, start to ask yourself, do I deeply understand the things I'm learning, or am I just memorizing them? Could I actually teach these ideas or procedures to someone else? These are all qualitative questions that you can ask yourself during the learning process in order to monitor and adjust your learning. Now, this isn't an exhaustive list, and you could probably create your own, but it's a good starting off point to understand whether your learning is effective or not. Now, the second way you can monitor your learning plan during the learning process is by quantitatively measuring your learning. And yes, this means taking some tests. And what these tests are going to do are benchmark your learning and see how it performs over time. A way you can put this into practice is actually taking the test before you start learning anything to get a benchmark of your knowledge about the subject or skill before learning it. Then, as you go through the process of learning, regularly test yourself to see if you're actually improving on that learning. By doing this, you quantitatively see with an actual number whether you're improving at that skill. This will also have an additional benefit that we talked about earlier in this course with active recall. Because when you're being tested, you have to actively recall these things from your mind. You don't get to look at any notes or anything like that. So it's going to help embed this into your long-term memory. So use these questions and repetitive benchmarking and testing to really assess whether your learning plan is actually helping you to learn the skill or concept that you want. If not, it's okay to change things up, switch out resources, switch out techniques, go back and interview people to figure out the best way to learn, and then create a new learning plan for yourself, continuing the process. Now, the activity today is to actually set up a system for yourself to be able to do this on a regular basis. I recommend doing something like a spreadsheet or using Airtable to set up a monitoring system for yourself. Create a way that you can go through the questions as a simple checklist and a place to record and graph your benchmarks from tests. This way you can see a graph or curve over time to see if you're actually improving. Thank you for taking the How to Learn Anything course. To get everything you need to become a pro learner, including advanced resources, personal coaching, and a community of passionate learners just like you, then visit plato.university/courses/learning and join us for free. Again, that's plato.university/courses/learning. This course was produced by Plato University, where students turn passions into purpose and learn skills to change the world. Learn more at plato.university.